welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in and sharing this down moment with myself and with one another. My intention with all of these videos is to assist in raising the frequency with one another and on Mother Earth, and just to kind of talk about ascension, raise our awareness around ascension, and go from there. So I'm just gonna regroup here just for a moment. I was guided to talk a little bit about dolphins. So I'm just going to go into little dolphins right now, and that's going to be kind of my intention to start, and we're going to see what kind of goes from there. So let me back up and just say this will be a little flow, a little light language, probably a little message, just a play on words, because I think dolphins is just a wade in to the messages that are wanting to come through, which is ironic because I'm wearing my aquamarine colors and I'm very water today. And what I always invite you to do is just kind of take a deep breath in. Well, I've been inviting people to do more often. And a long exhale, and just setting this intention right off the bat for this to be for the highest benevolence for all, in alignment with the highest levels of love light only. And so receiving only those energies and just being in that space if you wish to receive the frequencies, and if not, you can just be in a space of openness, setting your intention, of course, for the highest levels of love light and benevolence for all. Buestiat isti kukuana. Kuahane stistiana kukuhena etia haikiano wastia hea mokuaniana. Due kiana ikiana wahastia kiana. Duashtia kiana hatina wakukuestiana hatina wakuahena. Diana stea kukuena hatina hasterehendra. Doorstiendra hastikinra andere he astra rostrohor et indra. Dua hastikinra stisterhandra orstur an het indra et ikiendra. Kuwa he heni kiestia kuwa he no wako hena. Diane and heaste kiena hap oko heni stiena isto ko henina. Duea ya koko hana kistiana koko hende histikini na hana aya koko. Duet istikiena hayawa kukuena iayada o kohanastiana hastiana. So just as you must raise your frequency in order to communicate with dolphins, the dolphinetics are different. The exchange of light, the exchange of frequency between you and this other species, which is a part of you, you must too change your vibrational frequency to match that of the languages that are being brought in from the other dimensional aspects of your fields, of yourself, of your phonetics. This understanding can come in a sense format. It does not have to come in a cognitive, knowing understanding from the perspective of a linear third-dimensional reality. Instead, it can be felt, it can be known, it can be understood without having to break it down, and phonetically pronunciate duk ushti ishtianara or enderas tashtarak or enderas tashtarak or it inderhak ishtarak ere, which then alleviates the feeling behind the phonetics. Dur andres ishtik or entera hashtara uwa enderi ikinene na hak iamo ohan. Much like a sonar wave. I'm having references to the soul. I'm having references to an arc. So in arc, so in R. And they're showing me like sewing in frequencies. NR must represent something, I'm not sure what. Tu ay amo. Why I we invite you to recognize that tones, frequencies, and harmonics are the way of communication. It does not have to be broken down into a vocabulary, so to speak. For this vocabulary, so they're showing me like it's a vocal way, and a cab takes you from one place to another, like a yellow cab they're showing me. So it's like this vocal is the transportation that you have through the air. Vocabulary. And this is yet another example of the potential communication that Spirit has with all of us at all times. This communication can come in the form of harmonics, colors, frequency, waves, expression, feelings, visions, hearing, sight. And while sight and visions are in the same type of field, there's also seeing, and then there's also seeing. So a seer does not just see what is in front of them. They see with their senses. We will use dolphins as our example, for dolphins do not just see, they sense with all of their perceptions, and they feel the energy that is around them produced through the water, through the element of water, through the surface of water. And I'm seeing bubbles and waves and sonar, and also the fact that water holds a frequency in the vibration. And so they are also, in essence, recognizing their space of where they are playing in, where they are existing in, because they can feel the harmonics that that water in that particular region of space holds. And we are being invited to recognize that as well. Pretend that the air around us, or perhaps the aether, is just like the water. It is an element that holds a frequency and vibration. In essence, it is an essence. They're bringing me back to the 4 elements. It's an essence of our vocalization. So just as when I make a sound, it is felt through the airwaves, so to speak, in through your body and the ears and the crystals within the body, as well as many other things that are happening. This is the same way that the animals in the water communicate. Why should it be any different with us? So if you hear something and it makes you feel a certain way, this is the new way of communication that has been, I'm hearing, baptized. So they're sharing that there's been it's old, but it's like we're being refreshed. We are being, things have been cleansed, so that we're now recognizing that these old ways or old waves of communications have been around us the whole time, yet they have been, I'm hearing a lot of different words here, so I'm trying to hone it in on something a little bit more positive. Overwhelmed with distractions. So essentially, we are all overwhelmed with distractions. And rather than honing in on our own sonar system, we have been reliant upon others' definitions of how we should be honing in on something. So this is what this means. This is what it looks like. This is what you should be feeling. This is what it resonates with. This is what it resembles. This is what, and so everything has been boxed, 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 until there is a sense of non-sensory computation. So what they're showing me is there's this huge expansiveness, and then it was like chopped, 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 chopped to fit into this little tiny category. And then it was like, all right, this is all you're allowed to feel. You have to fit inside of this box. And so everything just kind of shut down. And there was a sense of a robotic response within our living system or living structure. They're playing with words right now. So they're showing me the Little Mermaid, and they're showing me Ariel. I can pause this now. All right, we'll see if he barks again, but they're showing me Ariel, and they're kind of tying together the ocean and the... Okay, so I know I just stopped in mid recording because my little buddy was barking, but I'm actually glad that this happened, because what I'm seeing is Ariel and this Little Mermaid, and what they were showing me is that to stop for a moment and think about Ariel. And I am going right into flow here, and I'm going to show you guys what it's like, what it looks like when you can be in a flow. My style has a lot to do with writing and riddles. In case you haven't read my blog before, I invite you to do that. But the cool thing is I get to share screen. So I'm going to share a screen, and we're going to do like kind of we're going to play here and go into a little whiteboard. So I'm going to show you essentially what they're talking about. Now, they were showing me that our form of communication is changing. We're being guided to feel a lot more. Those people that I'm working with who specialize in communication are really being called upon right now to hone in on those talents and abilities. And this can be for multiple talents and abilities. It doesn't just have to be writing, but I love to write. And it's ironic because I'm doing toning in this and I'm singing. I do not consider myself a singer, nor when I'm not in flow and I'm just singing along to a radio, I very rarely seem to hit the right tune. So I'm sharing that because when you're connected to, when you're in flow, it's just, you can get messages in all forms. So when I looked up Ariel, this is how we play. Oh, I forgot to hit share screen. I'm kind of lost here, so hold on. Okay, so to back up, I'm gonna hit share, and I'm gonna hit share screen. So now you guys, I'm sharing the screen, and of course I have to move this a little bit. So sign of origin of the word Ariel. Now the origin of the word Ariel is fire hearth of God. Now it says altar, and Jusinius would here translate it as fire hearth of God. And I would go into a little bit more detail about that because I really like following this through. But I'm going to just show you a little bit of how I get messages when I'm doing stuff that is more of science in nature. And this is where if you're driving in the car and your eyes are guided to see a star, and then all of a sudden the license plate in front of you says star, and then you go to the grocery store and you meet someone that's named Star, right? It's just, you know, you could just be in that space of, oh, okay. For me, I would read into that a little bit and not get into why, oh my gosh, what's going on? In the beginning I did, and I still catch myself once in a while doing that. But now I would go home and I'd say, all right, I'm going to look up at the stars tonight. And it could just be that I see a satellite, or I see a shooting star, or I see something in the sky that reminds me that I'm not alone. Or it could be that there's something going on with the shape of the star. And that might lead me into some science information that then I hear somebody else talk about 3 days later. So it tells me that something's going on in the collective. I'm using that as an example. Everybody's different. Some people get specific messages, and I get those as well. But I like riddles and I like to play. So what I did was I went into, obviously, the word Ariel. So then I Googled Ariel, and let me just go back and show you how I got into this page. And I'm laughing because I make a lot of references to The Never-Ending Story and The Labyrinth, which when I was a kid, those were the movies I watched when I was little, and or not so little. I still love them. And basically, it took me to the origin of the word was Ariel. And it's talking about they are believed to be the descendant of Ateria. And apologies if I'm not pronouncing these properly. Now, when I get information like this, or when I have them stop and hone in on one thing, I follow it through and just kind of see where it leads. Now, my eyes were not led to all of this. My eyes were led instead to, what did I click on? Now I have to find it. Oh, I was guided to look up a tree, and I don't remember how I got onto that, so I'll have to go back here. Oh, I guess I could go forward. Atreya, which reminds me of, you guys have seen Never-Ending Story, Atreyu, right? Atreyu. Now, if you're knowledgeable about the Hindu religion or all of this, you might already know this. For me, I only know bits and pieces and chunks, but it took me to Atreya, which is a rishi. Now, there's a lot of information in here that maybe I could go into, but I was curious about Atri, a descendant of Atri, and it talks about which leads me into, I have to laugh. I would just been talking about seers, right? S-E-E-R. And so of course that's where I could have gone into this whole story. But I went right to seer of Rig Veda. And it talks about most hymns in this book are attributed to the Atri clan composers called the Atreyas. These hymns of Rig Veda was composed, oh wait, that's not where I went. Just kidding. Oh, I just have to laugh. Oh, here we go. The verses are also known for their elegant presentation with of natural phenomenon through metaphors, such as poetically presenting Dawn as a cheerful woman in him. So I get these messages all the time because when I'm in flow and I'm writing in light language, I'm writing in code, I'm writing in a certain format and multiple formats from what my guides have been telling me. Eventually I'll figure it out. But this is a breadcrumb for me. So, and I'm sharing this with you guys because then I feel, and so you guys are getting these breadcrumbs. And I'll come back to the water and the air in just a moment. But it's in our feeling. So I felt guided to look further into this word. And I could go on a whole rabbit tunnel, Alice in Wonderland here. But for me, this is a breadcrumb telling me that that's what I'm doing. I'm writing this presentation of natural phenomena through metaphors and certain plays on words. And also, the other thing I was interested in was the swans, frogs, and geese, because I had just been getting messages about a long-necked goose, which could be a swan or a goose, and frogs. And so here is an example of my breadcrumbs as I'm in flow, sharing a message for the collective to you. Now, I could take that, like I was talking about the penny, I think in my last video. We could go simple and say, all right, a frog, according to Native American heritage, or we'll say power animal or totem medicine, is cleansing, purifying, right? I'm part of the frog clan, which means a lot more. But that's, and we just leave it at that. It's time to purify and cleanse. I see this as also being relevant to water and air and earth, because they are all they are with all of those things. I also see a frog as huge in transformation or alchemy, or we could say, so we hear the frog prince, it's shape shifting, and it turns from a tadpole into a frog. So there's lots of things that this could take me through. Now the geese and the swans is leading me into other things, which I'll get to later, because I'm thinking of, again, water and land, the ugly duckling turning into the swan, pink geese. I'm going to have to go into that a little bit more deeply, but pink has been coming up a lot in reference to the heart, as well as rose gold and alchemy. And if I go into more of this, which I'm just going in flow right now, I could pause this. Talking about compassion. So we could see one should behave like his own self towards others, his own relations and friends, him who envies him, and even his enemy. This is called Daya. So it just talks about some interesting things that I could go into more depth into. But I'm going to go back into flow, and I'm going to take us out of sharing, and you guys can play. And I'm using this as an example because if you go back into your own flow, you will recognize that these symbols that are coming through are meaning different things for you. So my breadcrumbs in that flow were about my writing and about what's coming through. It was also taking me into a deeper definition on, I said baptism earlier, right? I had this feeling of being cleansed. And that's essentially, if you think of Ariel, she's in the water and she's a mermaid and she becomes human, and then she goes back to the water and she can do both. And she flips her hair around and it's like this cleansing fun, you know, so there's a lot of hidden meanings behind this. And so if we come back into flow with this energy and this excitement that we get from these breadcrumbs, that we constantly are in a receptive, when we're in this receptivity is what they're sharing, and we come into receiving these and acknowledge that we're receiving these breadcrumbs, it allows us to then unfold in a much richer way. And that can be also that a play on words as abundant. They're sharing that there's more having to do with rishis. So that's something you could continue to follow that breadcrumb if you want to. I'm having reference, of course, to 7 suns, and that's a whole other ball of wax. But so again, they're showing me that this has many layers. We're just going to keep it simple for this particular video. And I'm not going into all of the rishis because that is not my area that they want me to go into right now, so you can play with that on your own. But what they're showing me is that there's this dynamic interplay of interweaving certain fragments and puzzle pieces with this new energy that's coming through. And they're reminding me that this harmonics is playing out all around us. These harmonics are playing out all around us in the earth, in the water, in the air. And this is firing up, they're playing with the elemental 4 elements in our capabilities, on us expanding and waking up. And also they're saying stoking the fires within. So whenever I think of stoking the fires within, I think of Kundalini as well as passion. And I had a session, I don't know if I did this in session or if it was in a video, but about compassionate action. And they were having me break down the words as compassionate action. So being passionate and finding your passion, they're guiding me to share that it's not about reacting and getting passionate and angry and fired up in that regard, which can be helpful. It's better than being apathetic about something or not caring. But recognizing that we can come from putting the two together, comparing, bringing together compassion and passion from a heart-based frequency, and not necessarily just being ruled by our emotions. There are people that are having difficulty differentiating. What they're sharing is between the emotions and being in the heart. It's great to be able to express ourselves emotionally because we are emotional. That's part of our sensory system. But again, our emotions that we have, you know, we need to come from a place of compassion for ourselves. So we might feel angry about something, but rather than lashing out in passion, you know, how often have we heard crimes of passion or these different things associated with passion? That is a reaction. That is an unstable emotion, not from coherence. That's like scrambled. So we're being invited as light workers and starseeds to descramble those eggs. Get back into a coherent, not up and down, up and down, up and down, and finding that middle ground so that we can create space and be representatives of compassionate action and not reactionary reaction. And as we stabilize these fields and as we stabilize our feelings, as we feel our feelings and allow them to essentially, again, I'm hearing that song, Royal and Ruler. So what they're sharing is that the true royalty, which is the starseeds, the true royalty are not ruled by their emotions. They are use their emotions as a way to understand their environment. And they're showing me that just as dolphins use their extrasensory perceptions, humans, one of their gifts is these emotions and using them to understand what's going on in their world and allowing those to essentially, rather than trigger a response, understand it a little bit more fully before reacting. And so we're just going to end on this note and just kind of remind everybody to recognize that the incoming waves and the trajectory that we are all on is in oneness, yet it is an individual expression of this oneness. And so we are not all on the same trajectory in the same way, and we are not all operating in the same dimensions and time streams. So the more we can honor one another in our paths and recognize that not everybody is on the same page, however, we are part of the same book. So this is a funny, I'm just laughing because it's just like if you start off reading the beginning of the story and the characters develop as the story goes on. And so by the end of a book, a well-written book, the character is not the same as they were when they began. Or, and that's like the story of an epic novel, so to speak. Of course, if it's a different type of story. And by the way, that's one perspective. They're laughing and kind of sharing with me that there's so many perspectives, because really it's like they're bringing me back into Never-Ending Story. You know, it's like Atreyu. Spoiler alert if you've never seen that movie. It's a fabulous movie. And spoiler alert, but there's so much soft disclosure there about what reality really is. And essentially this child is creating his reality in this story in his imagination. And I loved they're bringing me through Atreyu. Atreyu is a character that builds as the story progresses. He becomes stronger and he goes through all these experiences. And as he does this, you know, it's just a beautiful representation of what we're experiencing. And so while all these different characters in our books are not the same, and we're not all on the same paths, but we do cross each other's paths, right? We are choosing to represent ascension in our own way, and to essentially support one another in this. I'm hearing galactic alignment, but I'm also hearing just in general about the path that we're on. So in love and light, guys. Have fun. I know there's so much more I could go into about dolphins and mermaids. I was kind of guided maybe in a different video, because I am having reference to mermaids right now and dolphins. And so there might be stuff going on in the ocean. Diatoms is what I'm hearing. And there might be some timelines that are kind of crossing here with the mermaid and merman clan is what I'm calling them. Oh, and I just get so excited about that, because getting a little emotional, because I love the mermaids. Oh, I ash the kini and the dolphins. And the kiki. And so it is in love and light, guys.